Hey, good morning. This is the International Arbitrage Podcast. This is Jonathan Braffett, tax lawyer here at Brighton Beach. Brighton Beach is a beautiful beach. We're right in front of the one of the main power stations in Barbados, which is, it's one of the big ones. And here, just in the distance, we have what's called the hot pot, which is actually hot water outflow, an outflow of they pump in seawater, and then they use it to cool the machinery, and then they pump out the hot water here. So you have the warm water coming out into the sea, and as you can see, people are there right by the exit of the hot pot. It's very therapeutic. It's very lovely, and I have memories of my father, who's passed away 2 years ago now, but as a boy, when I got here to Barbados, he brought me here all the time, and I'm just remembering all that. This is why we're filming here today, and it's one of the things I remember about being here in Barbados. I've just returned from the U.S., Miami. I was away for 5 years, left in 2018, oh, look at that. Some guys taking some dogs for sea bath. That's Noel, Joshua, and Noel, I think it is. They said their names are. So one of the reasons that I left Barbados in 2018, I actually lived in the UK for 20 years. I started tax planning after I finished my barrister's qualification in London, and then I left what I was doing in corporate. I was working in telecommunications, and then I started to work as a independent tax consultant in international tax law. London has a lot of international tax, a lot of international business, a lot of international structures, a lot of international banking, and I left the UK in 2010. I moved back to Barbados, and there was a lot of change on at the time. The international tax system was changing a lot. The OECD was doing a lot of work. Governments all over the world were clamping down beginning to clamp down on the international tax system. They were introducing what they call the Global Automatic Exchange of Information, which is tax authorities in different countries exchanging information amongst each other. So that began to change, and during the 2000s I used to go to Switzerland and Luxembourg, and I won't call the names. I remember the days when certain banks used to have cash counting machines in the conference rooms when you would go into them, but that's an old thing. You don't see that anymore. Those days are gone. Of course, Switzerland and all these places now no longer have secret accounts and all these things. But the point here I'm making is change. When I got back to Barbados in 2011, the changes were ramping up, and in 2018, by the time 2018 came around, Barbados itself had a lot of changes, and then I had also started to do a lot of more work with people from Canada, from Latin America. And that really led me into the US, because a lot of Latin American people structure their affairs through Canada, but mostly through the US. And so I was working with a lot of US tax lawyers, helping people set up compliance structures between the US and Barbados and Canada and Latin America. And so the reason why I went to Florida really initially was to do a master's in international tax law at the University of Florida Law School, which I did do. And, the reason that I did that was because, I spent a lot of time talking to US tax attorneys about complex US tax law matters. Yes, you can work through this information, but to run people's structures properly, you really have to understand. You have to be able to understand the tax law of the country where your clients are going or where they're coming from. And by that I mean talk to the tax lawyers and arrange things in their from their point of view and from your point of view. So you have to be able to do things compliantly. Ultimately, in the end, it's all about saving money and keeping families safe. And then after the master's, I then decided to actually continue on and do a PhD in tax law at the University of Florida, which I'm just nearly finished. And the reason that I did that, I was talking to one of my mentors who's actually out of Italy, and he was telling me, especially, he is a fantastic international tax planner. He used to be a nuclear physicist. He's one of the smartest tax practitioners that I know. And so he was giving me some advice, and he said, you should go back to school. And because he said things are changing. There's going to be a new regime. And to tell you the honest truth, he was right. I mean, we've seen in the last 4 years the digital taxation, the implications in international tax law of digital businesses and developments in digital asset industry, whether it's tokens or NFTs or crypto or whatever. It's all very, it's all bringing about over time now a lot of change. And so that's kind of what my thesis was on, some of the nuances of international taxation of businesses that are digital, that are very dynamic, that the rules that applied to factories and large businesses from 100 years ago when the international tax system has formed, and even the economics underlying the tax law of 150 years ago, it doesn't apply to the assumptions underlying the economics no longer applies to today's businesses. And so you would think it's important to understand these assumptions, because they apply to reasons why the law doesn't work very well in a lot of cases, which can sometimes lead to higher costs. It can lead to misunderstanding. And so these are all reasons why I did a PhD in tax law or international tax law at the University of Florida, so that basically I would be able to advise people who were doing business in the US, getting investment from investors in the US, whether they're using digital businesses or otherwise. This is the reason why I did it, and so far it's been great. It's great to be back in Barbados. Things in Barbados are about to change again, but I'll talk about that in the next video, where I'll explain some of the changes that were announced last night on the news. Barbados, like a lot of countries, has been grappling with changes in the international tax system. But for the last few seconds of the video, I'll let you guys have a look at Brighton Beach, which really is one of my favorite beaches in Barbados. Let's walk to the edge here, so we can really see the beach line and the way it works.